Mm. Oh, cello. All right. Before I undergo my diabolical plans to infiltrate the Twitch waves, it is imperative that I explain what led me here. All right. I must go all the way back to junior year of high school when at such a young age it seems like we are tasked to somehow know exactly what we want to do with the rest of our lives as we're headed towards adulthood. And a lot of us are practically coerced into picking what we want to do in college because college equals success, right? At this time in my life, I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do. I actually started taking music seriously the year before, so around junior year of high school, all I really cared about was making music. That's all I wanted to do. But since I have African immigrant parents, if I'm not pursuing to be a doctor, nurse, pharmacist, lawyer, or engineer, it almost seems as if they would practically disown me. Also around this time, my older sister suggested I should consider engineering because I was good at math. I did like math very much, so since I thought telling my parents I want to make music wasn't an option, I was inclined to then explore more about engineering in order to see if it would be something for me. After doing a bit of research, I decided that electrical engineering seemed like something that would fit me since I was passionate about technology. Also, since I have African immigrant parents, so they'll surely approve. Then senior year of high school comes along, the year a lot of seniors get into the college of their dreams. I didn't have a college that I wanted to go to all my life, but I ended up getting into the University of Illinois at Chicago, among a couple other schools, and decided that URC was the best bet for me. Plus, I felt like it would be a nice change of pace living in the city compared to the suburbs. I eventually graduated with a 4.8 out of 5 GPA, even though I didn't really take high school all that seriously, but I had to get good grades because let African parents catch you slipping. When I graduated, I remember me having an empty feeling and I wasn't sure exactly why. I just really didn't feel accomplished and I just felt like we have at least 4 more years of school after being in school for practically all our lives up until that point. It's not even over yet. I eventually moved on campus in Chicago to attend UIC, and during my freshman year, first semester, when I took my first calculus class, I quickly learned that I would need to buckle up because this engineering journey was going to be far from the walk in the park that was my high school years. Sophomore year of college, first semester, I had what I would like to call a traumatic experience in the first entry-level computer science class I took. This experience put a bad taste in my mouth when it came to coding, especially when this class was my first introduction to coding. And this really affected me throughout college because for electrical engineering, I would still have to code for certain classes. It was around this time I was realizing that I like learning, but not in the capacity that a lot of these engineering classes were structured. Sophomore year of college, second semester, I was pretty much done taking most of my engineering prerequisites. And this semester, I started my first electrical engineering course, and while taking this course, I became completely aware of how difficult this engineering journey was going to be. At this time, I remember sitting at my desk in my dorm room thinking that, yeah, I don't think this engineering thing is for me. I knew I had the ability to do it, but up until that point, I wasn't enjoying it as much as I should have given how difficult and time consuming the major was. I thought about switching majors, but there wasn't anything else that I could think of to pursue that would best fit me. For a split second, I thought about switching to computer science because I did think coding was very interesting, but then the PTSD from the entry-level computer science class kicked in, and I was like, yeah, I don't want to go through that again. All I wanted to do at this point was still just make music. I realized I would like to study audio engineering rather than electrical. I looked if URC offered that only to find out that audio engineering is an art. Therefore, I would need to go to an art school. I researched art colleges that offered this, and the most prominent one that intrigued me was Columbia College in Chicago. Then I quickly realized that Columbia was way over my budget, so I knew that wasn't gonna happen, especially when I was also working part-time to assist my parents in paying for my education, and we were still barely able to pay off the monthly payments I had to for UIC, a far cheaper school to be at. I remember just being so confused because I thought college was supposed to follow your dreams. I envisioned myself I envisioned myself making music, and it seemed like I couldn't do that unless I have rich parents. At this point, a lot of things didn't make sense to me, and I wanted to drop out because I knew I could do it if I wanted to, but this engineering thing wasn't for me. And I wondered why I wondered why I was so compelled to stay. And it was because engineering is supposed to be a major that would get me a good job with good pay. My sister graduated as a nurse around this time, so I was thinking she went through this, I guess, not engineering, but this whole college thing. Why can't I just chill back and do the same thing? I also kept feeling like I was doing it for my parents rather than myself, and I didn't want to let my parents sacrifice of immigrants and I didn't want to let my parents sacrifice of coming to this country as immigrants to opportune their kids with a good education be in vain. I was also confused because I kept doing the math in my head and I came up with the same simple equation that negative plus negative equals even more negative. I was thinking, is the American dream to go to college, get a job, buy a house, buy a new car? Because all that seemed like a nightmare to me when again, I'm doing the math in my head and negative plus negative equals even more negative. And you must be out of your damn mind if you think I'm setting up my life just paying bills, and loans like my parents did. There's too much that I want to do with my life to be stuck in that loop. At this point, I really did want to just drop out and pursue music, but if I were to do so, I felt like I would have to do that with practically no support. And at this time, I actually had no idea how I would go about doing that, but I felt like I still had a chance because I was intently paying attention to the way technology was making it easier for new artists to emerge, SoundCloud for example, and generally the rise of streaming. And if I did drop out, I thought my friends would probably think I'm crazy for doing so. My parents would definitely think I'm crazy and act like something is wrong with me, and society would just add me to the statistics of male dropouts. But since I like to finish what I start, and because it was still early in my engineering journey, I thought I might just been overreacting because the major was so difficult. So I decided to just continue to feel trapped and see if it gets better. And up until this point in my sophomore year, I never stopped making music and continued to in whatever capacity I could, given the little free time that I had. Junior year of college, at this point, I was pretty much tired of the psychological games I thought some professors were playing. And this year, there was a class in particular that just messed me up. And I felt like I was wasting my time and my life energy doing something this difficult that I wasn't enjoying. So I had to call my sister up and ask her if she enjoyed being a nurse because she already graduated and was a practicing nurse. And she basically told me that being a nurse can get stressful at times, but overall, yeah, she enjoyed it. I already, I, I already felt like she had to enjoy it for the most part, at least enough to be pursuing a nurse practitioner license at the time. And that's why I was like, there's no way my sister could understand what I was going through with one of the most difficult engineering majors because she's still pursuing higher levels of nursing and I'm ready to check out. Talking to her made me feel a bit better though, at least enough to just keep at it. I was already more than halfway done with engineering anyways, and I've already invested a lot of my money, my time, and my life energy into it, so I thought I might as well just stick with it and get my degree. Till the Till this point in my junior year, I continued making music in any capacity that I could while I was taking engineering classes, and I started to notice that I would subconsciously pour anger into my lyrics and was puzzled why this was happening because I started making music for fun. But oh yeah, I remembered I wanted to drop out the previous year and I've been feeling trapped ever since, so maybe that has something to do with it. But then I also realized that I've always been subconsciously emoting within my lyrics, and as a male, my first reaction to that was I didn't start making music to talk about my feelings. But then that's when it clicked and I came to understand that is the importance of art, the value of self-expression. Senior year of college. At this point, I was like, there's no way that all I want to do is make music, which again is why I continue to make beats, write lyrics, create songs, and record them in my dorm room. And not many people knew music is one of the biggest passions of mine because I didn't want to promote my dorm room quality songs like that. But since I've put all this energy in making music while in college, I felt like I needed to set up a foundation that I could build upon after I graduated. That's why starting the second semester of my senior year, while still taking 4 engineering classes, I decided to undergo a music project where I would record 4 songs, make a website, and use the opportunity that I had living in the dorms, being around a mass amount of people. This project took about 3 months to complete, and I paid $75 an hour for studio time to do this. During this project, I was working at the UIC forum, and I recall trying to pick up as much shift as possible so I had enough money for studio time. Though I realized for all I wanted to do, I wasn't going to have enough money. I ended up calling my sister to see if she could help, and she loaned me $1,500 to assist me with this project. I could barely believe she was willing to help when I thought I was crazy for even doing this project while I was taking 4 engineering classes. And then, and the $1,500 my sister gave me was indeed a loan. She made me create a contract that we both signed, stating that I would indeed pay her back the 1,500, which I eventually did, one monthly payment at a time. During my project, I definitely learned that being a music artist is actual work and can be quite grueling, especially when you're also working part-time and taking 4 engineering classes. But I was still able to finish my project in the time frame that I set myself to. For my project, I created graphic videos to go with my songs on Windows Movie Maker. I created a website through Wix.com to promote my songs, and I even created a social media business cards through Zazzle.com. I was prepared and able to finally share my music to my friends and peers. I was proud of myself for pulling this off while taking 4 engineering classes. After I completed my project and was able to share my music, the high of finally being able to record in an actual studio died down very soon after. I realized that my goal of being a music artist would not come anytime soon because I concluded that I would need more time, money, and still further educate myself on a lot of things that came with music production that I wasn't aware of beforehand. I also realized I was not happy with the quality of my songs because the whole project was rushed. The quality of my songs were definitely better than the dorm room quality songs I previously held, but all I was thinking about during the project was I needed to get it done before finals, no matter what, because you must be out of your damn mind if you think still being in the midst of this project by the end of the semester while I'm taking 4 engineering classes would be possible. It was my first time in a studio, working with a studio engineer, so I really had no idea what I was doing. And because it was my first time in the studio and I was spending $75 an hour for studio time, I made sure I extracted as much information as I could from the studio engineer I work with in order for me to have a greater grasp on all that comes with music production and being a music artist. Since I was more informed afterwards, it was clear I would still need to learn a lot more things surrounding music production if I wanted to do this professionally. I estimated that it would take about 5 years if I wanted to pursue this as a career. Upon this realization, I told myself that I would drop putting energy in my music almost completely for the time being, so I can just focus on getting out of college, getting my degree, and getting a job in order to be in a stable situation to start preparing for what I actually want to do with my life. And again, at first, I literally thought I was crazy to invest a total of around $3,000 on this project. That's why I had to reassure myself that the experience I gained while being in the studio and working on my project for that 3 month period was priceless. I ended up I ended up creating my own website, my own business cards. I edited graphic videos, all because I was really trying to have a business-minded approach for this project. Also because I literally thought I was crazy during and after this project, I continued to ask myself why I was going so hard to become a music artist. And I determined that yes, music is indeed one of my biggest passions, but as I examined my past from childhood, I have just always generally been extremely creative, whether it was working in Windows Paint, Windows Movie Maker, drawing, creating comics, writing stories, writing lyrics, creating songs, making beats. I realized throughout my life that I've always been constantly creating artistically in whatever form that took. That's why I intended to use music to gain other creative opportunities because for some reason I cannot get over my intrinsic nature to create. To create professionally and to make a living creating, that is my dream. Being an engineer was not. August 2016, I moved in an apartment in Chicago with two other roommates because it was cheaper than living in the dorms. After my senior year, it was intended for me to only have a semester left to graduate. I walked for graduation December 2016, and during my graduation, I conjured up the same empty feeling that I had when I was graduating high school. Yet again, I didn't feel accomplished graduating, and I really was not fond of the whole academic side of my college experience. But I guess you can still learn and take away some things from bad experiences. Long story short though, it turned out that an extremely horrific case of senioritis came over me. The doctors were adamant that I wasn't going to make it and I failed a class. So I had to make up the credits for the for that class the next semester. I made up those credits with one more engineering course the following spring semester, which finally put the end of my dreadful college career at May 2017. I ended my college career with about a 2.2 GPA, and if you convert that back to a 5-point scale like I had in high school, it comes out to a 2.75 out of 5 GPA. Wow. So I went from a 4.8 out of 5 GPA in high school to a 2.75 out of 5 GPA from college. Based on these merits, I might be getting stupid by the year. Nevertheless, during college, I didn't get an internship, which I tried to by attending as many career fairs as I could, but all to no avail. But even though I had these huge disadvantages, I was like, there's no way I can't get a job with an electrical engineering degree. Anyways, during the time I was taking my last engineering course, I could no longer work at my school because I was only taking a 3 credit class and I needed 6 credits to keep my campus job. I ended up having to leave the URC forum and obtained a customer service associate position at a Walgreens in February 2017 because my rent was not going to pay for itself and my mommy and daddy were not helping me with that. I'm living independent from my parents at this point. That's why during the time of my last spring semester, I applied to as much engineering positions as I could in hopes to obtain something by that summer in order to relinquish the difficulties that came with having to pay for rent, utilities, food, and other bills with just the pay from a customer service associate position. Summer 2017 arrived and I've been actively applying for engineering positions for months at this point. I got a couple of interviews here and there, but those didn't work out. And at the pace I was going, I started to think that it might take longer than expected for me to secure a job. I couldn't help but to think that my GPA and lack of internship might really be messing me up. I was starting to see why internships are very important if you want to pursue an engineering degree, because a lot of what these companies were looking for was experience. Experience that did not come from what I learned in my engineering courses. During the middle of summer 2017, I was talking to my roommate about this, and I was basically telling him, yeah, I think I just wasted 5 years of my life obtaining this degree. I don't have the golden 3.0 or higher GPA. I don't have any internships under my belt, and I felt like it wasn't worth going through all of that if it was just going to amount to nothing. But my roommate reassured me that I got an electrical engineering degree, and that's worth something, and not a lot of people could attain that. The way he spoke made me open my eyes a little bit and ignited me to be like, alright, let's see what I can do here. Around this time, my mom connected me with a guy from her church that she thought I could talk to and help me with my job search. I eventually met up with him that summer, and yeah, he actually ended up being a critical part in boosting my confidence. He helped me restructure my resume so it looked more appealing and less cluttered. He gave me great tips on what companies look for on resumes, and he also informed me on what to do during interviews and how to properly approach questions asked. During just one meet with him left me taken aback on how much I didn't know went into this whole job search. After I married him, I also decided to not only apply for engineering jobs, but to broaden my search completely, since the skills I did obtain in college could be applicable for different positions. So for the rest of 2017, I applied for data analyst positions, technical support positions, customer support, digital media positions, project coordinator positions, product coordinator, and still continuing to apply for other engineering positions, and looking for especially entry-level positions because of my lack of experience. I just kept looking for various positions that I thought suited the skills and experiences that I did have, and I thought I would somewhat enjoy doing. And it was near the end of summer 2017 when I got an email about the school loans that I gotta pay back. I had to log in, create an account, and see how much I owed. When I did this, I saw that I owed $40,000 in school loans that I had to pay back. What? I almost had a heart attack, seizure, and fainted at the same time. I owe $40,000, and this was after all the monthly payments my parents and I struggled to pay throughout my time in college. I really could not believe this, and I was ready to go to my bank account and calculate how much we paid each year from those monthly payments to see how much in total I paid for my college degree. But I decided not to do that because seeing that total might actually rupture something within me. So yeah, I had to call my sister up and be like, what? And she told me that I could defer the loans for now, which I had to do because what I was making at Walgreens was definitely not going to pay off my loans. At this point, now obtaining a job was an extreme necessity if I owe $40,000 in college loans. Continuing to apply for jobs throughout 2017, I was getting a good amount of phone interviews that led to some in-person interviews, but still not landing a position. When it came near the end of 2017, I was still thinking not having an internship might have really messed me up, especially when companies pretty much inferred that they're not going to hire me because of my lack of experience. I was not the only one of my peers without an internship and looking for jobs, and I spoke to some of them, and they were pretty much going through the same motions when it came to securing a position, which I guess made me feel a bit better knowing this wasn't just me. 2017 ended, And when 2018 came, I was still looking for a job, still working at Walgreens full-time at this point, and still had $40,000 in college debt. In the beginning of 2018, I continued to apply for jobs and was looking forward to the first technology career fair my university was hosting at the end of February. When the career fair was near, my goal was to when the career fair was near, my goal was to look for either a full-time position or an internship. An internship was going to be difficult though because a lot of the companies require you to still be a student to obtain an internship with them. But at this point, I needed something, anything, because wishing my college debt away was not working. And having to pay that much money back puts an extreme dent in the other plans I have for my future. The technology career fair arrived, and I did think this career fair was better than the other ones I've been to because it did focus on companies that were looking for electrical and computer engineers and computer science majors. So all majors surrounding technology. At the career fair, there are still a lot of other students that are looking for jobs and internships too, causing the pool of jobs available still to be very competitive. The best thing about this career fair though was I did get to speak to all the companies that I wanted to rather quickly compared to the larger career fairs my university has hosted where there were just too many students, causing the lines and wait time to speak to these companies to be too long. After that career fair though, it still felt like more of the same because I continued to reach out to the companies and recruiters I spoke to about the positions I applied for and was interested in, but it just didn't amount to anything. I was still back at square one. In the beginning of March 2018, when I was still looking for a job, still working at Walgreens full time, and still had $40,000 in college debt, I had to do something differently. Constantly applying for jobs was just incredibly exhausting at this point. My life consisted of working at Walgreens full time. When I wasn't at Walgreens, I would be in my apartment applying for jobs. When I wasn't applying for jobs, I would be trying to get in contact with recruiters through LinkedIn or calling the companies directly to see if I could speak to a recruiter to tell them I was interested in a position. I would also I would also sometimes take the time out of my days to put on a suit and go to companies downtown in Chicago and around the surrounding suburbs to hand in my resume in person. And it really annoyed me knowing that you should treat searching for a job as a full-time job when I was already working at Walgreens full-time, and the amount of effort I put into balancing all of this was drastically depleting my life energy. Since I've been applying for so many different types of jobs for a good amount of time now, I noticed a lot of the positions that I was interested in required some sort of data analysis skill. So in March, I decided to take a step back and I enrolled in a 10-week online data analysis course through Codecademy, which taught me how to manipulate data and use Python and SQL coding languages. And at first, I was hesitant to take this course because it was a coding course, and the first coding class in college still affected how I felt about coding till that point. But since I didn't have any experience through an internship, I had to get over that because the 10-week course could be a great substitute for that. Taking this 10-week data analysis course through Codecademy was extremely helpful in teaching myself how to use Python and SQL to manipulate data and create insightful reports from it. And it was also great that in this course I was not being graded and I came out of it learning data analysis. I wasn't applying for jobs while I was taking this course because I needed a mental break from the exhausting nature that came with constantly applying for jobs. And in the beginning of this course, my roommate started playing Fortnite. I watched my roommate play Fortnite for some time and I started to become more intrigued by the game. Being the gamer that I am, I had to give Fortnite a spin. I played it for the first time on my roommate's console, and after playing one game, I felt the power and the addictiveness, but the power that this game had. I couldn't play Fortnite as much because I was still working full-time at Walgreens and was focused on my data analysis course, but as I continued to watch my roommate play, and for the little time I could, I was like, this Fortnite game is unique and doing things different. And when it came near the end of my data analysis course in June, sure enough, it did not take long for Fortnite to completely take over globally that summer. Then that's when I was like, whoa, yeah, this game is doing things differently because it's a free game that's available on all platforms: PS4, Xbox, PC, Switch, mobile, tablet. And then later in the year, Sony finally allowed cross-platform for Fortnite. There's no way anybody could have foreseen how much this game will completely take over our world. But as I kept watching and reading about Epic Games' approach to this game, I picked up on all the signs that this game was going to grow immensely. In June 2018, when I was done with my data analysis course, I slapped the experience on my resume, and I started back hardcore looking for jobs. It did seem like the data analysis course helped me obtain phone interviews more frequently, which led to a lot more in-person interviews than before. But as 2018 went on, I was still not landing anything. And as 2019 was coming closer, I kept telling myself that there's no way I was going into 2019 still working at Walgreens full time and looking for jobs constantly. Also, as 2018 went on, Fortnite kept growing, allowing a lot of Twitch streamers to benefit from it and rise in popularity, and having practically every gamer wanting to be a Twitch streamer now. I've known about Twitch for some time now, but I haven't really been on it. Most of the gaming content I've watched was through YouTube, but Fortnite allowed Twitch, a live video gaming platform, to also become even bigger. And as a gamer, I also couldn't help but to explore the Twitch platform and find out more about it. And lo and behold, the Twitch platform is owned by Amazon. Therefore, Jeff Bezos owns Twitch. The richest man on the planet acquired Twitch back in 2014 for $1 billion. And seeing how a lot more of the general public was discovering what Twitch was through Fortnite, I had to admit that was a well-played move by Bezos. With all the knowledge I gained from further investigating Twitch, how it works, and what it takes to become a Twitch streamer, and because I didn't want to go into 2019 still working at Walgreens full-time and looking for jobs constantly, I kept thinking that becoming an Uber driver and a Twitch streamer would have a direct impact on the other creative goals I have for myself. Fortnite continued to prove to me that it was also a game designed for creatives, hence the creative mode and support a creative function that it has. And Uber being on my mind for some time as a potential way to make money, especially ever since my friend told me he made $600 a weekend driving with Uber, and that was close to the amount I made for 2 weeks working full-time at Walgreens. With the knowledge of that stuck in my head and not completely understanding how my friend could make $600 in 1 weekend driving with Uber, if this was to be true, I thought Uber to be a potentially liberating substitute for Walgreens. At this time, all I knew for sure is that I wasn't working at Walgreens and still looking for jobs going into 2019 like I have been for basically 2 years now. Don't get me wrong, Walgreens held it down during the time I was looking for jobs. My coworkers were nice. I picked up on a lot of business practices there, and it was a stable income that paid the bills. But if you went through the trials and tribulations that is obtaining an electrical engineering degree, you would understand why staying there as a customer service associate position was not an option. but the most important reasons why I had to leave was I personally just couldn't take my erratic work schedule. Week to week, I would have a different schedule. Sometimes I'll work mornings, sometimes evenings. I just wanted to use the piece of paper that cost me $40,000 in debt to have a good old-fashioned 9 to 5 with a decent salary so I can have a stable schedule to work around to start preparing for the things I actually want to do with my life. Also, the Amazon Go store opened in Chicago during my time at Walgreens. With this happening and with the aptitude of technology that I have, I could no longer spend any more time working in retail. Again, well played, Bezos. And lastly, on top of the many duties that I had, one of my tasks while working at Walgreens during the evening shift was to throw out the garbage at the end of the night. Which every time I gathered up all the garbage in the store and outside to toss out, I couldn't help but to think that when I was in high school and was working at KFC, one of my tasks was also to throw out the garbage at the end of the night. I didn't mind throwing out the garbage, that wasn't a problem. I just continued to be in disbelief and thought it was funny that over 5 years later, after obtaining an electrical engineering degree, owing $40,000 in college debt, using up so much of my life energy looking for a job, I'm still working as a customer service associate position where I'm tasked to do this. I didn't spend so much of my life energy to be still doing the same task I was doing back in high school 2 years after obtaining an electrical engineering degree. 2018 was ending, and if I had to go into 2019 still being at Walgreens, at this point, I thought I might go insane. So yeah, the end of 2018 was near, and it was November when I was driving back to my apartment from Walgreens during the day, and I popped my car tire. I was close to my apartment when this happened, so I was able to drive back to my apartment with my popped tire and would need to take it to the mechanic the next day. The next day came and I dropped off my car at the mechanic. I was scheduled to also work that day, so I had to take an Uber to and from work while they fixed it. When I was leaving work that night, I ordered an Uber pool to take me back to my apartment. During my Uber pool ride, we also picked up a woman, and she was the one that started to stir up a conversation with our Uber driver. She was asking the driver about his experience driving with Uber, and this guy pretty much gave us the complete rundown of how great Uber was. I started I started to tell the Uber driver that I was considering working with Uber and I was asking questions while taking mental notes. He said he made $1,000 a week riding for Uber. Since my friend said he made $600 a week, I knew this couldn't be far from the truth. So I quickly did the math to see how much that would be annually. He also said that they don't take off taxes, so you would have to pay some money back at the end of the year. But still doing the math, I'll be making the same amount of money working with Uber in an entry-level engineering job. What? This Uber driver also told me you can work 10 hours a day max, 7 days a week, and completely work on your own schedule. He also mentioned he did both Uber and Lyft, which I didn't even know that was a possibility, but I was like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. That makes perfect sense to do both since they're sharing the rideshare marketplace. He told me how to sign up and register for Uber, how the vehicle inspection works. Completely indulged in this conversation with this Uber driver, he continued to explain how being aware of events that are going on in Chicago will be a quick way to raise your platform. And and as and as soon as he said platform, I practically zoned out for a second because I never thought of Uber as a platform because Twitch is also a platform, so is YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, TikTok, SoundCloud. These are all platforms. He even gave me his code to use to sign up with, and by the end of this one Uber ride, I was pretty much convinced that Uber was the next move to finally be able to establish myself. Oh, and I checked my records. November 20th, the very next day after I received the Uber sign-up code from that driver, I get contacted by a recruiter via email about an entry-level product and engineering support position I applied to. I was stoked I got contacted about this position because I was indeed interested in it. So I emailed the recruiter lady back that day, and we eventually set up and had a phone interview. The phone interview ended up going great, and as I waited to hear back to see if I'll be moving forward to an in-person interview, I was thinking if I get this job, maybe I don't have to do Uber, or maybe I'll just have to do it anyways on the side. I wasn't sure, so I was just like, let's see where this opportunity goes first. The recruiter lady eventually got back to me saying the company wanted me for an in-person interview, so I was like, cool, okay, let's see where this opportunity goes. I completely had my mind set on doing Uber after that Uber ride, but let's see where this opportunity goes. On November 29th, we set a date for December 5th for the in-person interview. Alright, cool. I had to get myself in the interviewing zone and prepare for this. And I cannot make this up. December 4th at 5:40 p.m., an email was sent to me from this recruiter lady. I was at Walgreens when she sent me this, and right when I was about to swipe out for the day, I read this message from the recruiter lady. I'm sorry for the short notice. However, I want to share this update with you right away. At this time, company name has identified a candidate that they'll be moving forward with for the product engineering support role. So unfortunately, we'll need to cancel your interview scheduled for tomorrow. The team will certainly keep you in mind for other opportunities that come up in the future. What? We'll need to cancel your interview schedule for tomorrow? After seeing that message, knowing I spent about 2 weeks talking with this recruiter lady to set up all of this, at this point, either the universe is yanking my chain or better yet, trying to send me a message. I decided it was the latter, and message received loud and clear. The universe has spoken. At that moment, I knew I was done wasting my time applying for jobs and was just going to get into Uber. That was the last straw for me. Before this happened, back at the end of November, my sister called to see how I was doing and how my job situation was going. While I was talking to her, I told her I was thinking about doing Uber and maybe I'll continue to look for an internship or something. I needed to see if this $1,000 a week myth is true because this could be a game changer. When I was talking to my sister at this time, I was in a frantic state of mind because I would rather not be going through all of this towards the holidays right at the end of the year. But I continued to tell my sister that I believed Uber and stepping into this Twitch thing would have a direct impact and be extremely helpful for my other creative aspirations. But of course, my sister, as well with a lot of people in general who aren't into gaming, doesn't know what Twitch is. I tried to briefly explain what Twitch is to her. Generally, it's a live gaming platform that can also be used for more than just gaming. Probably confused, my sister asked me what I wanted to do exactly. She asked me, do I want to be a rapper, a singer, a dancer? And I was like, what? I said, why can't I do it all? But I have to start from somewhere. If I'm going to live till I'm 90, I think I can do a lot in that time span. So yeah, maybe I want to be an actor, a voice actor, an author, a script writer, a comic book writer, a director, a game designer. I can't do any of those things if I'm working at Walgreens and still looking for electrical engineering jobs till I'm 90. I constantly have so many creative ideas among so many different arts congested in my head. Again, being in the jumbled state of mind I was in, my sister then proceeds to say I sound like Kanye. Wha, wha, what? Sister? Do you mean I sound like a genius? No, she meant I sounded crazy, and this is exactly why I pretty much don't tell people my bigger than life creative aspirations, because they'll go ahead and put bad juju on me and call me crazy. This is why I couldn't have been happier that my sister, the person that has known me for the 25 years I've been on this planet, the person that has actually been in support of my creative dreams when it came to music, to insinuate that I sounded crazy by saying I sounded like Kanye. This was very important to hear from my sister first, especially because I find Kanye to be an interesting yet complex specimen. This was when I had to tell my sister that this was why I pretty much almost had a psychotic breakdown in college when I wanted to drop out because I wanted to make music, but then I eventually realized that it was just because I needed to be doing something creative. Being an engineer was not even a goal of mine. This is the reason why I thought either I was crazy or all of my peers and friends were crazy, because of the conventional ways that is propagated we should live our lives for far too long now. Go to college, get a job, get a house, get a new car, and work for someone for 30 plus something years, then retire at 55 or something. Nah, that's not the way I imagine me living my life, because I know we have so much more opportunities than ever before to not have to follow that model. And I can't help if the mass majority cannot see that technology is allowing us to break free from this model and create opportunities for ourselves at far greater rates than ever before. And I have been spending 2 years looking for a job, feeling like I've just been wasting my precious time. If I didn't act now and start living my life the way I want to, yeah, I might go insane. I don't have an unlimited amount of time on this earth. So yeah, they told Kanye that he couldn't rhyme, and look how far he went with that. Then they told him that he couldn't step into the fashion industry, and look how far he went with that. And now they're telling him he can't run for president 2024. Well, I guess we'll all have to see how that turns out. Seeing how Kanye is now operating at a high creative level despite what people told him he couldn't do is why, if you are going to tell me I can't do something, my first reaction would to slap you silly, because you must be out of your damn mind if you think when I got an electrical engineering degree and I thought I wouldn't make it out of that alive, and that was something that I didn't even care for. So doing the things that I actually want to do with my life, I feel should come at ease in comparison. All right. fast forward to towards the middle of December. My sister called me letting me know that she would be coming back to Chicago from Texas with her husband to have Christmas at her father-in-law's place. And I was like, cool. And then on December 19th, my mom called to see how I was doing, as well as how my job search was going. And I was letting her know that I was going to be leaving Walgreens and start doing Uber at the start of 2019, then figure things out. She then was trying to tell me Uber wasn't a job, and I had to say, yeah, it is a job. But I knew what she meant. It's not your conventional 9 to 5 with a set salary and benefits. Of course not. But if the myth that you could make $1,000 a week driving with Uber deems to be true, I'm thinking, does it even matter? 1,000 a week is a healthy amount of resources to finally put me in a decent financially stable situation like I've been wanting for 2 years now, and still having more than enough to do other things. But my mom kept suggesting more things I could do to get a job and continuing to recommend I consider going back to school for something else. I already had no intentions of going back to school for anything else until I figured out how I'm gonna pay off the $40,000 I already owe in college loans. Then during our conversation, she then tells me to try harder when it came to finding a job. And I was like, what? What? I pretty much started to see all red when she said that and practically lost it. My mom was already aware that I didn't even like engineering, but she didn't know that I wanted to drop out sophomore year because of it. So I started to tell her that I wanted to drop out and I wasn't doing that whole college thing for me. I was doing it for her. I was doing it for my parents. I never cared about engineering like that. I think I've poured enough of my life energy to acquire something that I didn't really care about doing. She was then trying to ask me why I didn't tell her about dropping out sooner so that we could have talked about it. She was saying I could have gone into nursing or pharmacy or radiology, and I had to stop her right there because she was pretty much answering her own question of why I didn't tell my African immigrant mother that I wanted to drop out of college because she would suggest other things that I don't care about. I don't want to be a nurse. I don't want to be a pharmacist. I'm a creative, and if I don't start creating now, after spending 7 years of my life doing something that would make her happy, not me, my parents, then I will lose it. After she said I should try harder, I straight up told her that yeah, I'm completely done looking for jobs. I'm not looking for engineering jobs or whatever jobs anymore. I told her that I'm going to do Uber and spend some time learning music production online because you can learn anything you want on the internet. And she was like, even if I wanted to pursue music, it would still be difficult to accomplish because I would still need to make connections with people. And I was like, yeah, I can make connections with people through the internet. I tried to further explain what I meant, but my mom didn't really understand what I was talking about, and I started to realize that I was trying to explain how the internet works to someone who barely knows how to download an app on her phone. I had to end the conversation right there. I had to end the conversation right there. I ended the conversation completely fumed and just could not believe she told me to try harder after all the efforts that I've put in. A few days after having that disgruntled conversation with my mom, the universe spoke again. In the morning of December 22nd, I came across a video on YouTube titled Jordan Peterson, The Curse of Creativity. Jordan Peterson, Canadian clinical psychologist and university professor, has put up a lot of content on YouTube, and prior to this day, I have been consuming a bunch of it for weeks because I also found him to be an interesting specimen. I also respect his perspective and appreciate him posting his lectures online, but this video specifically seemingly went past my radar. I started to watch this video and it was Jordan Peterson in one of his lectures breaking down how creative people don't think the same as non-creative people. He speaks about the difficulties that comes with having a creatively wired mind, saying that it's not easy to monetize your creativity if you want to use your ideas or craft as a business or career. He indicates how a creative person suppressing their creativity is bad for them and goes on to state it's not self-evident that you would curse someone with high levels of creativity. What? Have I been cursed? Is this what led me to almost having a psychotic breakdown in college? Contemplating either I was crazy or my friends and everyone around me was crazy? Is it just because I'm a creative is why I feel I don't think the same as most people? Did I finally get my diagnosis for what I've been going through for so long? My unwavering need to create after all this time has just meant I'm a super creative? For 2 years, I've been trying to get a job with my electrical engineering degree so I could actually start preparing for my creative endeavors. And yeah, during that time, not being able to create in the capacity that I wanted was the driving force that almost made me go insane. I've always liked learning, I've always had a passion for technology, and I am a man of science. So just because I have no desire to be an engineer doesn't change any of that. I've also been noticing some of my peers on Facebook starting their own creative ventures while I felt like I was just wasting my time and life energy applying for jobs and working at Walgreens. Having gone through the mental battle I've endured being a super creative, I could understand why this would be a curse. But we are headed into a full-blown technological revolution. That's why I've been acknowledging it's rapidly becoming the best time to be a creative. We are living in a time where art meets technology, technology meets business, allowing business to meet art. Therefore, giving creatives way more opportunities than there has been ever before. And because I knew this, I have been ready for so long to use this to my fullest advantage. So thank you for this diagnosis, Jordan Peterson. After watching that video, I immediately felt my power levels rising due to the realization that I'm not crazy. I just need to be creative or else I will go insane. But heed my warning. I could still flip off the edge at any time because I'm a creative, a super creative to be exact. And I have a wandering and extremely active imagination. And as creatives, we sometimes must be comfortable venturing into the deep and dark parts of the human psyche, and that isn't always a pleasant thing. Michael B. Jordan from the billion-dollar grossing Black Panther movie expressed earlier in the year that he had to seek therapy because of the mental state the Killmonger character put him in. Yeah, given how extreme the Killmonger character was, and especially having to portray that character's mind state as a black man in America, it was wise for him to seek help to not get lost in that character's way of thinking. This is an example of the caution some creatives must recognize when dealing with some of the creative work. There's also Jared Leto using the method acted technique to put himself in the twisted mind state his Joker character had in Suicide Squad. Or there's Christian Bale putting on weight for his Dick Cheney role. One might think that's crazy to purposely put on weight to play a pretend acting role, to play pretend in an acting role. Or there's the twisted nature of the Stephen King's novels. So yeah, along with the constant need to create, Creatives sometimes must tap into the deep and dark and twisted parts of the human psyche and go through some things that you might think is crazy, just so our creations can reach the highest of standards. And we're also doing this for your enjoyment at the end of the day. Being a super creative, I know it is imperative I keep my rampant mind in check, or I could flip out. And me suppressing my creativity throughout college and even a couple of years after did not help me mentally at all. There were things that kept me in check though, one of them being my sister, because she has been supportive of my creative endeavors since forever, which was surprising to me because when she loaned me the $1,500 for my music project, I thought she was crazy. I thought she would think I was crazy to spend that kind of money on a music project I was doing while taking engineering classes. She even gifted me this mic I'm speaking on in college when I was making music in my dorm room. I can't do anything but completely appreciate her for that. And I guess I'll have to forgive her for insinuating I was crazy this time around. Also, I consider my social experience in college to be my educational experience. That's what kept me grounded in reality while my creative mind wandered. And simply staying positive the whole time, knowing that the future for creatives is blindingly bright, kept me from completely losing it. So yeah, on December 22nd, when I was working at Walgreens during the evening shift, I had Jordan Peterson all up in my head like, you cussed, I say. And this didn't help considering I just still couldn't believe that my mom told me to try harder when I continued to update her on everything I was doing to secure a job. I mean, I didn't take a whole 10-week analysis course just for fun. And you're going to tell me to try harder? I just never felt so disrespected in my life. My mind was just getting more and more clogged. And during the end of my shift on December 22nd, I didn't feel right at all. I felt completely off. It was then December 23rd when I woke up that morning to get ready for work early in the afternoon, and the same off feeling I felt the previous night during my shift lingered. This was when I just couldn't take it anymore. When I was in the shower, I found myself turning up completely out of pure anger because I was like, there's no way my mom can tell me to try harder after I got an engineering degree practically for her. I was in complete mental anguish at this point, given the many other things that were circulating in my mind as the year was ending. I had to hop out of the shower because I really could not take it and call up my sister. She didn't pick up. I went back in the shower and was still losing it. Hopped out of the shower again and called my sister up again. I didn't know what she was doing, but I kept calling her until she answered. When she eventually answered, I started shouting pretty much at the top of my lungs about how I felt utterly disrespected about how our mom said I should try harder. I was such in an angry state of mind that I don't even remember exactly what I said. And this was a different type of anger that I felt before. This was 7 years of pent-up anger, feeling like I've been scammed out of my time, and my life energy, when all I wanted to do was make music. I asked my sister if my mom was going to be at her father-in-law's place for Christmas because if she was, I didn't think I should go anymore. I felt like I would lose it there. My sister told me that my mom was working on Christmas, so she actually wouldn't be able to make it. Then my sister told me she will be at my mom's place the next day on Christmas Eve since my mom was off that day. And I was like, good, because my younger brother was also going to be there since he was on his college winter break. And since my mom asked me why I didn't tell her about dropping out sooner, for the sake of my mental health. Well, now I was going to lay out everything so she can't say something like that again. Christmas Eve came and I headed over to my mom's place in the suburbs. I also came there ready with notes because I was going to unload everything. When I got over there, I pretty much broke down what I've been saying throughout this time I've been talking. And I also had to go through other family issues that I had. But the main basis of me going over there was to tell my mom, my sister, and my brother and let them know that I'm going to start preparing for what I want to do with my life. When Christmas came along, I did end up going to my sister's father-in-law's place and had a great time, especially when I felt completely anew because I was finally able to stand up to my maker. I started to feel my power levels rising and everything was becoming oh so clear. I knew what I had to do. I had to infiltrate the church waves. Alright, because I wasn't playing around, I had already put in my 2-week notice at Walgreens and January 1st, 2019 was my last day there. After my last day, I gave myself a week to relax and finish completing all the requirements needed in order to start driving for Uber. When the next week came around, January 7th, when the next week came around, January 7th was when I started my Uber driving venture. During my first week driving with Uber, I worked on familiarizing myself with the Uber driver app so I could become more comfortable using it. And by the end of the week, even though I was new to the Uber driving platform, I ended up making $725. And you can't see that for yourself. I was left astonished because I almost couldn't believe that I pulled in $725 when it was just my first week and I haven't gotten used to everything that came with being an Uber driver. But that didn't matter because this one app made it so simple to gain that amount of money. The next week, I was completely cleared to use the Lyft driver platform as well. From then on, I spent a few more weeks getting used to both driving platforms and learned that it is indeed extremely beneficial to do both. The next month in February, I realized it certainly did not take long for me to confirm the $1,000 a week myth that came with driving with Uber. As you can see from this week in February, I did make $1,000 a week driving with Uber. Or you can take a look at the week after that. Or you can take a look at the week after that. Or you can take a look at the week after that. And the week after that. One second. All right. All right. The app seems to not be functioning how I wanted it to, but the highest grossing amount that I did make was $1,600 in a week. So, as you just witnessed, I do make more than $1,000 and can actually make up to $1,500 and sometimes more driving with Uber. Now, please don't think I'm some wealthy thousandaire. Since the beginning of the year, I have been grinding, swerving through the streets of Chicago, working 45 to 60 hours a week, so I had enough funds to transform my room into an office space in order for me to have the proper equipment to infiltrate the Twitch waves. I've invested thousands of dollars into the sick setup you see here and can see in its totality on my Instagram at Okachobi. On the other hand, I also had to invest in thousands of dollars in the repair and maintenance of my car and will need to continue to invest some funds into my car throughout the year in order to keep it in tip-top shape, which I'm fine with because driving with Uber or Lyft, your car is essentially your business. So I know when I'm investing to keep my car in shape, I'm essentially investing in my business. Plus, the repair and maintenance of my car, among other things, can be used as tax write-offs. As the months went by since the beginning of the year, I couldn't help but to think that I've been scammed out of my time yet again while I was working at Walgreens because it was so difficult for me to process that the amount I made from Walgreens in a month, I now make in a week driving with Uber. I make $1,000 to $1,500 a week driving straight, sitting in traffic, listening to the radio, and having pleasant conversations with the civilians of Chicago. I continued to try to process how it was possible making this amount of money through an app on my phone when Uber or Lyft didn't charge me anything to use these apps. And I spent 7 years of my time and life energy putting myself in $40,000 in debt trying to obtain an electrical engineering job so I could have enough funds to start setting up my life as a creative. When this whole time I could have had the resources to do that by just driving around picking up passengers. So how is this possible? It's possible because technology and how technology is providing us with more opportunities than ever before. And if you think I'm just stepping into this Twitch platform without having done the proper research of all that entails being a Twitch streamer, you must be out of your damn mind. I had to educate myself on the proper equipment I would need, how to set it all up, and inform myself on what it's going to take to build an audience. And I still don't know everything. That's why I'll still need to further educate myself on everything about Twitch if I'm going to successfully infiltrate the Twitch waves. Okay. And there are these magical things I keep hearing about called financial freedom and generational wealth. Now, can anybody on this planet, or actually any planet because ET might have an answer for me, explain to me how to obtain financial freedom and generational wealth when I know that my sister owes $50,000 in college debt, I owe $40,000 in college debt, and my brother, having a year left of college, will have accumulated at least $10,000 in college debt, leaving the grand total of debt my siblings and I owe to be over $100,000, and that's just from school loans. Now, can anybody tell me how to obtain generational wealth when right now what my family is doing is accumulating generational debt? This is also the reason why I felt like I was crazy when I wanted to drop out of college sophomore year when I was doing the math and knew that negative plus negative equals even more negative. Having now accumulated over $100,000 in debt just from school loans between my siblings and I calls for us being past code red, particularly after we struggled growing up in this country without that much money as immigrants. Right now, I am completely deprogrammed. I will now start taking the initiative to deprogram my family as well, because I cannot continue to let them be financially exploited. That's why I would like to thank all the companies that did not hire me, because now I work for myself. And because I realized a while ago that the internet has become a playground for creatives to flourish and capitalize on their creativity using a business-minded approach, especially when Gary Vaynerchuk is handing out all the cheat codes. Now is the best time to use that now is the time to use the fullest extent of my super creative powers. As for music, I have pulled any music that I've put online because none of it is ready to be consumed on a mass scale. While I'm infiltrating the Twitch waves, I will have to continue to put music on the back burner and find the time to sharpen my hand in music production. And if you think having a 2.2 GPA from college is going to somehow make me feel intellectually inferior, you are out of your damn mind. Because the American society I grew up in has already tried to make me feel that way just because of the color of my skin. So yeah, I did obtain an electrical engineering degree. As you can see there. But F all that. When I was younger, I determined that life isn't fair. When I was younger, I determined that life isn't supposed to be fair until you make it fair for yourself. That's why I decided to bestow upon myself a master's in art and technology, as well as a PhD in creativity. Okay, so yeah. I have been trapped in a cocoon for far too long now, being confused and angry because I continue to feel like I'm being scammed out of my money, time, and life energy when I'm seeing things most people aren't. And at this point, I'm actually infuriated. That's why the only form of retaliation I can think of is to become successful. Now is the time for me to spread my creative wings. I'm about to infiltrate the Twitch waves and enter the Matrix completely under my terms. So I guess it's game on. Shlah.
I'm a living legend. You ain't heard yet, you not get the message. From the moment that I'm stepping in, I get a couple weapons. Yeah, I turn to a beast when I'm rapping.